scream bravo. Also, if you didn't know, this is called the show.
Hi everybody, it's Paul from Gauntlet Comics. Welcome to I for Indies. Today we're going to go back in the Wayback Machine to one of my first indie comics I bought called DareRat. The year was 1987. I was definitely into the alternative scene. For music, I was listening to everything from R.E.M, 10,000 Maniacs, Sonic Youth, Suicidal Tendencies. For art, I was into Lichtenstein, Warhol, Johns, Jones, Herring, and Dali. My comic book choices reflected the same. I'd grown bored with the normal comics. A couple things had happened around that time. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had come out and rocked the indie world. They elevated to a higher level, and the number one was getting harder and harder to get. The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller also made an impact in the comic world. At this time, I was reading Daredevil, Groo, and the Hulk, but my sights did turn to independent comics. I really enjoyed the animal-human amalgamations like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I was going through my list of comic books. And by the way, back then it was typed, okay? Right from an old typewriter, and sent out to you via mail. So I'm going through, and I see this comic called DareRat / Tadpole, parody of Daredevil. So I went ahead and ordered it, and it came in the mail. Very interesting cover that I came upon. A little black and white, Daredevil. Then I read, "Quick, Rosie, do something." Referring to the old paper towel ads. This book is by Mark Martin. Mark Martin is an interesting person. He began his career in the 80s in the alternative comic scene. He produced the DareRat comic book series. Let me show you that. Show you how interesting this is. Okay, just take a moment. DareRat, the Dark Knight Returns. He likes his Frank Miller. You'll see this play out in the DareRat as well. He went on to draw 20 New Dancers 20 for the Comic Buyer's Guide. He also worked on Tantalizing Stories. He drew some issues of the initial Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. He's also drawn several comics for Heavy Metal, and in the early 90s became the art director of the publishing company Tundra. He had also worked for Nickelodeon. So he's had a really long career. As a matter of fact, I pulled his bio up on Comic Book Database just to give you an idea of how much he's done. A lot of stuff. But seems like he's always remained mostly in the independent scene. Except for towards the end, he did do some work on the X-Men. At SpongeBob Comics. There's the X-Men right there in 2013. So back to this comic. So I'm looking through it. First of all, this publishing company was his publishing company. That's his publishing company. They're no longer around. It was basically made just for this issue. There's Mark. As you go through, it tells a story much like Daredevil's. Our DareRat in this case is Bruce Wayne. He's 100 years old and he'd just become blind. Check this out. Nebbish Crack. He made up his own ads as well. Of course, that's supposed to be Nestle Quick. Grand prize, big bunch of Blowbot toys. So we go over. I find interesting about him is he, much like the comics of today, shows you different types of artwork. Look at that work there. A little joke on Bruce Wayne being blind, putting the Pop-Tart in the coffee maker. Here's 72,000 cheese pizzas. Look at, there's one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles delivering them. So he has a lot of different contrasting styles. We're going to see this in Tadpole when I flip it over. But I really think he's a great cartoonist. Get that for a close-up. Next, another comic book. The message for Mighty Pumpkin. That's where you send it. Gone on tour. Then you get to the middle of this. Holy cow. Look at this. That's the insert. This pleased my alternate sense of art immediately. Then you go to the flip side. You have Tadpole Prankster. So where things got interesting, where you start switching up styles. Look at that. Almost close to realism. Then you come over here. Talks a lot about pot in the beginning, which I love, cannabis. I was a smoker back then. We just say I'm not now, but we won't talk about that. I got a drawing of that pickle. There's a gnat, reference to a gnat, and she eats it because she's just hungry. I mean, look at... From one style to the next. Going into talking about Iggy Brick. Gets more and more deteriorated here. And then back over here we go back to realism. Martin is an amazing artist. Look at that. And he's a great writer, too. And a wicked sense of humor. And look at this. Your breath stinks. Toy fire truck riding to help improve your breath. So, this comic book set me on fire. After this, I started purchasing adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters. Also did some Ralph Snart, Blaine, Animal Man. But here's my observation and why this comic book and I have had an interesting career together. So I paid $1.95 for it. Here we are. How many years? Close to 32 years later. And I now find it on Amazon for $7.26. Or actually, let's start over that. Starting at $4.99 all the way up to about $8. So to say that when I bought this, I wasn't looking for the next big thing as well would be a lie. I was. Okay? And even back then, the logic concluded that the lower the print run, the greater the art, all the magical components mixed together would mean a good spec book. Thankfully, I tried to collect what I liked. So therefore, this book remains precious to me. I love this book. But this is where you are with specking on indies. You don't know where they're going to go. It's almost as predictable as saying where lightning's going to strike on a rainy day, or not a rainy, on a sunny day. You just don't know. Who would have thought Walking Dead, would become as huge as it's become? So this comic book taught me a lesson that, as far as speculation goes, you don't know what's going to hit, if it's going to hit, what the next big thing is going to be. Once again, you buy what you like, collect what you like, do your research, and just enjoy the heck out of the hobby. I definitely recommend that if you like indie comics, this is one to pick up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you please feel free to comment below. Make sure you like and share. If you're new, please make sure you subscribe, like, and share. And thank you so much. See you next week.